Hello everyone. In this video today, we'll discuss some of the tips and tricks to ace Cambridge International Education A-Level Chemistry Paper 2. So, let's start. So, the first thing that I'd like to discuss is you really need to build your base. And what I mean by that is that you need to master the textbook that you have. You really need to properly study the Cambridge textbook, like Cambridge endorsed chemistry textbook, and you really need to analyze and understand the content that you have in that book. Some of the tips that people often use and that I have used myself is to use margin notes and highlighting keywords. There are certain parts of the book that of some chapters that frequently appear on the test. There are keywords, there are key reactions, there are key definitions. So you need to really highlight them. Maybe you'd like to note them somewhere in your notebook to just properly memorize them, to remember that all the time. The very important thing that I believe increases your score substantially is understanding why something happens, not just what happens. What I mean by that is you need to learn concept. You need to understand the concept and not just memorize it. You need to understand why the answer for that certain question was like that. You need to understand why something works in that way. You need to be able to properly reason your thinking, your way of thinking. And only in that case you will be able to increase your score and increase your general knowledge about chemistry and A-level chemistry in particular. Then again, as I've mentioned, you need to learn some key definitions, like definition of, let's say, first ionization energy or enthalpy change of formation or enthalpy change of neutralization. These are the things that frequently appear on your test, on your paper. Like they ask for definition. So you may want to use some techniques for learning those definitions. Let's say you may use some flashcards for that. Then, as I've said, you need to understand the concept. And in order to understand the concept, you may watch short concept videos on YouTube. They are available. There are a variety of them actually. So you may want to watch some of them to really, properly understand what is going on in that process, why something is happening, why the trend is like that. Let's say if you have a trend for first ionization energy, why you have that trend. You need to understand that concept. You need to understand the reason behind that trend in order to properly respond to some questions that are going to appear on your paper. And so to better understand your concept, to better understand that concept, to improve your concept, you may want to watch some YouTube videos. And then, as I've mentioned before, for each chapter, you may want to make some notes in your own words. You don't have to copy from the textbook everything. Just note somewhere the key points that you've understood, that you think you need to memorize, that you think are important and that are going to appear on your paper. So then sometimes you may want to open past papers after studying a particular chapter. Let's say you have studied chapter 7, which is redox reactions, and you may want to open some topical past papers and then look at the questions to really understand what Cambridge is going to test regarding that particular chapter. Then second very, very, very important thing. And this is something that you're going to do after you've mastered the concept, the content of your book, is reading smart and decoding the question completely. So whenever you are reading a question, especially in the cases where the question is very wordy, where there are many things, many sentences, many conditions, you may want to underline key terms. What question is asking from you? What conditions they're giving to you? Like what exactly they want to to see from you, to see in your answer. So for that you may really want to underline things like calculate, explain, state, describe, because there is a huge difference between all of them. And if you describe something instead of explaining it, you're definitely going to lose some marks. For example, if they're asking for a explanation of the trend in ionization energy, and instead of writing an explanation for that trend in ionization energy, you'll write uh, just the you'll just describe the trend itself. You're risking losing some marks. Then important thing is, especially in stoichiometry questions, is to look for units and for some important conditions. So let's proceed with that. There are some common mistakes that students usually do in paper two. Some people, they ignore what the question actually asks. So as I've mentioned before, you may write an explanation instead of describing something, or vice versa. You may describe something instead of explaining it. So you need to properly look at the question, you need to properly look at the content of the question, and you need to understand every single word, every single sentence in it, what it's saying, and why they're saying that. And then you need to look at the question itself and try to understand as much as possible what they're asking from you, what they want to see in your answer. Then again, some people, they give a fact instead of an explanation, or some people usually give some incomplete answers. Like, let's say they do not explain the things in a proper way, they explain it in like partially. So in order to avoid that, you need to just master your textbook. Read everything, all the topics, every sentence. You must not miss anything to write proper and complete answers. Again, another thing is, you may not want to overwrite your answer or give something that is irrelevant to the question being asked. So do not give that thing. Just understand what you're being asked, what you're supposed to write. Write that shortly, understandably, concisely, and then just move on to the next question. You don't need to write everything that you know about it. Just write what you need to write, and that's it. So let's look at this sample question for ideal gas equation. Uh, Here they're asking us to calculate the molecular mass of the compound based on the conditions and based on the values that they've given above, and then identify the compound from those that given in table 1.2. So you see, this question is related to the question that is above it, so you need to pay attention to the things that are being mentioned in the previous question as well. So how do you solve this question? And this question is from past paper. The first thing that you need to look at is, you need to look at the units. So you need to look at the units and the question that you're being asked. They're saying, use this information, like this whole thing, to calculate the molecular mass of the compound. Hence, identify the compound from those given in table 1.2. So you need to refer to the previous question, to the content of the previous question, in order to fully solve this one. So the first thing you want to do is to convert your units into proper ones that you will be able to insert into your formula, into your ideal gas equation formula. So we're converting temperature from degrees Celsius to kelvins, we're converting kilopascals to pascals, and then we're converting centimeter cube into cubic meters to be able to put these units into ideal gas equation. And you need to memorize what units you must use for every certain formula, for every certain equation as an ideal gas equation, for example. So then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to use your formula to find number of moles, because you're asked to calculate the molecular mass, and you have your mass. So you can find number of moles from ideal gas equation and then insert your mass given in the question itself and your found number of moles into molecular mass, and then you're going to find your molecular mass and then just simply match your molecular mass to table entry. Let's look at the model answer for this one. The first thing that I did, I looked at the question itself, I understood according to the thing that they're asking and according to the units and values that they've given, that I need to use this formula, this ideal gas equation formula. I converted my values into proper units from kilopascals to pascals, let's say from centimeter cube to meter cube. And then I have converted degrees Celsius to kelvins, and then I've just inserted my constant of R, which is 8.31. It is not changed unless you use a different unit for pressure. So I found my number of moles, and then I simply inserted my number of moles into another formula to find molecular mass. I found it to be 76.4 using the mass that was already given in the question. So you need to pay attention to the things that you're already given, and to use it with the thing that you found during your calculations. And then I simply matched this found molecular mass to one of the compounds in the previous question. So what mistakes people do usually in this kind of questions? They usually make mistakes related to unit conversion. They forget convert centimeter cube to cubic meters, or they convert centimeter cube into dm cube and then just simply start their calculations. Sometimes they mix unit systems. As I've said, you need to use 8.31 as your R if your pressure is in pascals, but some people use 0.0821, which is used for another unit of pressure. So you don't want to do that. You want to really look at the question, analyze and understand what it's saying and what you're supposed to do, what you're supposed to use and what you must not use to get the correct answer. And also some people choose wrong compound because they have miscalculated molecular mass, and then they end up losing 2 or maybe even all 3 marks in this kind of question. The last thing, but the thing that is as important as the points I have mentioned previously, is your practice, because this is the thing that basically is going to increase your score to get you an A in your exam, and it's the practice. So you need to do timed past papers regularly, especially if your exam is near and it's approaching. You really need to start doing your past papers. At first, you want to work on a quality rather than quantity. So you want to solve 10 or 15 past papers and analyze them properly. You want to do them without looking at the mark scheme at first, and trying not to look at the text, even at the textbook. And then you want to check your answers after completing using official mark schemes that are provided everywhere. And you want to analyze your mistakes. Wherever you made the mistake, look at it properly. Analyze why you made that mistake. Maybe the thing is you knew the thing written in the mark scheme, but you just simply did not understand the question. Look at the question once again. Try to memorize that this kind of questions are answered in this way as written in the mark scheme, because questions are quite repetitive. And also the thing you need to do is that you need to adapt to a mark scheme, you'll probably find that mark schemes answers are a bit different to the things written in course book, in textbook. So the thing is, in textbook they write it in the way that it would be easy to understand for a reader. But mark schemes structure their answers in a bit different way. So in order to adapt to that, in order to understand how you want to structure your answers, your responses for questions, you want to make, you want to practice as much past papers as possible and analyze the every single paper after solving it. So as I have mentioned previously, you need to learn from your mistakes. You know, some people, what they do is that they just solve one past paper. Sometimes they check, sometimes they don't even check it. And then they just put it aside and then they solve another one, they solve another one, and they keep getting the same score all the time. And then they ask, why am I getting this score all the time? Why can't I increase? Because I'm practicing. I am supposed to increase my score. But A levels are a kind of standardized testing, which means that if you're lacking in one concept, you're going to always lose marks on that concept, no matter how good your response looked at the time. You're going to definitely lose your marks. So, what you want to do basically is that you want to analyze every single mistake, analyze what you're writing, why you're writing that, why you're making that mistake, what concept are you lacking in, and then what mark scheme says about that certain question. Like, write your own answer, write your own response, and then write the mark scheme's response to that question, and then see, compare this to. Maybe your concept is not good. Maybe your problem is with concept. Maybe your problem is with understanding the question. You knew that that thing written in mark scheme, you knew that things work like that, but since you were not able to understand question, you were not able to comprehend it or to interpret it in the proper way, you wrote something different, not something that they were asking for. So do that. Do analyze mark scheme, but do not look at the mark scheme while solving. Solve the past paper fully, complete it, and only after that open mark scheme, check it, do whatever you want to do. But while solving, do not open mark scheme and try not to even open the textbook. Although sometimes opening textbook may help you to memorize some key things. But again, I'm going to repeat it. Do not open mark scheme because that thing may be a bit addictive. You know, you may start referring to mark scheme again and again and again all the time, which will not be helpful in improving your marks. So the final tips are going to be, you need to be very precise with your terminology. You know, write what you're supposed to write. Don't mess around. Don't go around. Just be concise, clear, brief. Write what they're asking. Understand what they're asking first, then write what you're supposed to write, uh, and move on to the next question. Uh, the the next thing is you need to memorize standard definitions and equations. So there are some definitions, let's say first ionization energy or enthalpy change or Le Chatelier's principle, and these are the definitions that come basically all the time, at least once in one paper. So memorize them, do learn them by heart. Like you can dedicate 1 hour in one day, just sit for 1 hour, go through all of them, and you will be able to learn them because they're not much of them. And the same thing is with equations and any kind of formulas. Learn them, do learn the units that you use in them, in the calculations, and that will also help you to improve your marks significantly. And then you need to understand common topics such as bonding rates, equilibrium, moles, and like topics in organic chemistry. So like things in mark scheme, they are written in a bit different way than they are in textbook, because in textbook they're giving it so that you can comprehend it easily, so that reader understands the thing written in it easily. And mark schemes responses are different, because they're writing responses in the way that will show that you know something, that you're not writing for a reader but you're writing for an examiner. So in that sense, answers for marks in mark schemes are different to the things being written in textbook. Like I do not mean that they're entirely different, but there is you know a slight difference that can make that may make you lose some points. So what you want to do, you want to understand the concept first from the textbook, and then you may want to eventually adapt to the way of writing answers in the way that mark scheme usually does. That will help you to get marks from almost everywhere, because questions are quite repetitive, and paper two, they the same things come all the time, and the answers in mark scheme also are very very repetitive. So if you properly solve, analyze 15 question papers and their mark schemes, or it's better if you analyze even more, that will help you to significantly improve your score. Because again, in mark schemes, there's a different way of writing your answers, and you need to adapt to mark scheme. It is inevitable if you really want to get a good score. On test day, just stay calm and try to manage your time as good as possible. You may want to start from the questions that are difficult to you. Like, it's different for everyone. Some people, they struggle in organic chemistry. Some people, they struggle in calculations. So you may want with something that you struggle with in order to save some time for it, and then you may want to proceed with something that is easier, or you may do vice versa of it. Like you may want to start with something that is easy for you, and then do the things that you struggle with. But technically, if you have done enough past papers, and if your concept is good, if you understand what is in textbook, if you have not memorized it only, but you have also understood it properly, you'll not have any problems with time, because 1 hour and 15 minutes that they give for paper two is usually enough, and sometimes even left. Some extra time is left among many, many, many students. And obviously, you need to stay calm and be confident. If you have solved enough past papers, if you have read the textbook properly, you will obviously do very good. So that was it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any kind of questions, if you need any kind of assistance, support, you're free to write anything in comment sections. So thank you for your attention, and thank you for your time. I hope that you will be able to get a very good score in your exam. So goodbye.